This is John Force, 16-time Funny Car Champion. And I'm here with American Hot Rod Entertainment. And if you want to be entertained, this is the show, and Darren is the guy to do it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the hodgepodge intro. This is not the Four Wide Nationals. It's just been a long time since I've done that. Obviously, neither myself nor my co-host, Dujanay Bland, or Darren Williams Jr., but John Force made that intro. He thought so highly of Darren that he decided to make him part of his own team. So Darren is part of John Force Racing now, and he can't, as part of his contract, get to do the show anymore. But I just figured with everything that happened today, I'd like to bring it back, dust the cobwebs off, come out of retirement, and we need to break this show down, break this event down, because there was a lot happening. I've got my good buddy, not Bland, Dujanay Bland, on the show to help me out tonight. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. It was a long event, but it was a great event, and I'm looking forward to breaking this down.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, John Force is probably the biggest story of the event. As he was in the intro. I put together this little clip. If you haven't seen what happened to him, this is just a little overlay from actually commentary from 30 plus years ago. It just seemed to fit very well with what happened today. So we'll take a quick look at that.
Whoa, and John Force is ablaze. The tires blow up. Force crosses the track, smashes into the wall. This is a horrible incident for John Force. Sliding down the racetrack, still right side.
Amazing incident for John Force. The parachutes never deployed. I got to say, when I watched it live, it gave me Scott Coletta vibes. It was really scary the way he went through that 1,000-foot mark. That thing blew up, and it went a little bit to the right, and then it just rifled across the track, and it hit that wall so hard, and NHRA TV cut right to the starting line camera, and I'm like, man, this is some scary stuff.
I agree. This wasn't good for anybody, and it was ugly. I don't think we've seen anything this ugly in a very, very long time. The way that happened, I hollered. I'm just gonna say that. Yeah. I hollered. I'm gonna say this. I tweeted it out earlier, and then Matt Hagan came right behind a few passes later and made the same statement. I understand keeping the bodies out of the stands, but look, every person that buys a ticket knows that ticket is basically a waiver, okay? And we don't want to hurt anybody, sure, but I believe the tethering system not only blocked John from being able to see, it kept the fire in as well, and on top of that, it was did not enable him to steer the car. He was able to steer it off the wall the first time. If the body blows away, sure. Does he not hit the wall? Maybe not. But I guarantee you he probably can leg that thing down into the sand trap. And the chutes would have came out, being that it would have ripped the body off. And I think all that tethering, the way the body broke, and I don't think they've seen an explosion of this magnitude with this tethering system. I think it has to be revamped. I understand protecting fans, but not at the expense of potentially seriously injuring or killing a driver. That's not how you want to go down. And if there's a massive fire, how does the safety safari go about getting that person out if he doesn't hit the wall and shatter the body? How you get that person out in that instance? I just think there's a lot of things to look at, and I think it needs to be revisited.
It was very interesting, and that's something that Johnny Gray said, over a decade ago when they first started coming out with these things, and he was the first test pilot, if you will, at Sonoma when that body blew up, and it's possibly the same thing. I mean, it was such a concussion. It was a much more violent explosion than we've seen. I mean, like I say, and it was going through the finish line, so it's as you're stepping off, you're not anticipating it to explode the way that it is, and whether it stunned John or, like you say, because of the position of the body being blown up and back, you can't reach the parachute levers because they're way up here, and it blew the airline off for the safety system. So it blew away to release the automatic shutoff release for the parachutes. But that was a very scary incident too. The fact that the parachutes didn't come out. I agree. That was concerning. Yeah. And it was weird the way that body just kind of came apart the way that it did. It didn't really, you would have thought with an explosion that bad, it would have vaporized the body, or at least the wind would have caught it and blew it off. It was amazing to me as well. After he caromed off the wall, the way that it turned sideways, it seemed like the wind caught it then and almost flew it like a kite into the other wall. It didn't matter if he had brakes or steering at that point anyway, because that thing was just, it was doing what it was doing. And, thankfully, I mean, the explosion is scary enough, but when you hit that wall with that force, with no parachute and seemingly no stopping power, that was really scary. But you could see the slick exploded, the way that the tire was bent and hobbling. I mean, it took a lot of the impact away from John. And as the side of the body was missing, you see that you couldn't even see John in the car. The way that they have the shields around the roll cage and everything now, he was very well protected in the cockpit. But obviously, the head protection, everything they've put in these cars since the incidents that they've had, all seemingly did their job. Still no update on John. People are asking in the comments that we've heard anything other than he was at the hospital for evaluation, and we'll go further from there. Nothing has been officially released. Nothing has been officially said about Norwalk in, is he going to be able to get back into a funny car in 5 days' time? Do you know, Dugenais, if NHRA has a concussion protocol like the NFL or NASCAR?
I do not know if they have a concussion protocol. I would assume, given the circumstances and what these drivers have to do, I would hope they would have a concussion protocol. But I am not 100% sure. That's something to investigate if they do. And if they don't, this might be the time to, start coming up with something like that. Because I would most definitely say that with that type of impact, you would have to come away with a concussion. But, that's pretty for him to be able to be helped out of the car in that fashion after such an impact, 302, still pretty much carrying a lot of momentum. That's pretty impressive. Says a lot about the safety equipment, says a lot about how these cars are built nowadays.
Right. And I would like to add that the concussion protocol is just a question. We do not know that John does or does not have one. Just a question from an impact in the wall that severe, and then to get back into a car that short of a time. It would be very, very interesting to see how that plays out. I did hear mentioned on NHRA TV's broadcast that after the rules changed during the COVID era of things, if John does not race the car next week and there is a substitute driver, they will continue earning points for John.
Yeah.
Good thing or bad thing?
I like that. I don't think a driver should be punished coming and being, shouldn't have to go out there and race for points if he's extremely sick or injured, obviously, and then have to worry about being canned and losing momentum there. The substitute driver should be able to, gain some points for, the driver that is out. So I do like that rule. I think because it enables a guy that like John, who is very much a competitor, would probably, I wouldn't say he would want to get back in the car despite what the doctors say. I'm just saying that as a player, as a competitor, just like we look at NFL players, you have to do things to protect the driver of themselves. And I think this gives them a thing of at ease that, okay, I can go ahead and have a substitute. I don't have to rush back. I can take my time, get healed, and come back out there and be able to be 100% when I do get in the car. So I do like the rule. It basically protects the drivers from themselves.
Yeah, which is always a good thing because, like you say, a lot of drivers or players in any sport, especially when there's championship points on the line, maybe not so much now going into the countdown because you're going to be in it. But if you miss a race and you could potentially look at, okay, I didn't meet all the qualifying session criteria and get bumped out of the top 10, that is a potential there too. So yeah, I think that it is a good potential outcome if John is unable to be in the car. And then of course the question quickly then goes to, all right, who do we put in it? And we do have a comment here. A question was asking, what's Robert Height's condition? He'll be back in the funny car at the end of the season. Would he have to retake his funny car license? Could he end up in John's car? I know I had questioned and was speculating earlier. Does Courtney Force still have her license? I think Ashley's might have relapsed. Who do you get in the car if John can't? Because obviously with Robert out, Austin's already in Robert's funny car. They're quickly running out of backup drivers.
Well, me and another person had a discussion about this, and I first thought, okay, this would be a great time for Jordan Vandergriff to get some seat time, right? But yes, Matt, there you go. That's exactly where I'm going. Tommy Johnson Jr., and here's why. I know that putting Vandergriff would be good move as far as marketing, but you need a seasoned driver. He doesn't have a lot of seat time, and right now that car needs to go rounds. And also, you don't want to put a greenhorn, so to speak, in a position of having to be in full competition and having to maintain John's spot. A guy who can do that, come right off the couch and go right into the driver's seat, and who has driven everything, is probably one of the best drivers that's sitting on the sideline right now, and that's Tommy Johnson Jr.
Or Tommy's former DSR teammate, that's Jack Beckman.
That's another one
waiting in the wings. But
true.
And it's funny that we talk about super sub Tommy Johnson Jr. Didn't he get in Matt Hagan's car and collect a Wally on Matt's behalf when he had the COVID protocol a couple years ago?
He sure did.
So super sub Tommy Johnson Jr. Yeah, the talent pool is out there. Do you pull somebody from the alcohol ranks? Do you how many drivers are out there? How many licensed Nitro funny car drivers are there available to be pulling from? So
right.
It'll be interesting to see what the Force team does going forward into Norwalk. And it was interesting to see as well on the Fox broadcast, if everybody was able to tune in, see the FS1 show, how visibly upset Austin Prock and Brittany both were from that experience.
Yeah, they showed that on they showed Austin's on NHRA TV and as well as the Fox broadcast. Yeah, that almost got me choked up. That was tough.
And leading into Austin Prock, obviously, he goes on, wins the race. The entire funny car category this weekend was almost a tale of two separate days. We started off 3 days of three qualifying sessions in one day on Saturday. Bob Tasca comes out of nowhere. Looks like he's got the car to beat. Chad Green's putting down solid runs. It looks like it's going to be a 4-0 race day. And then the rains come, and it kind of turns back into all right, let's throw some power at it type situation, which kind of played right back into Austin Prock, Jimmy Prock, Thomas Prock, and that whole Cornwell Tools team.
Yeah, I mean, what a day. What a day and a weekend for Bob Tasca, and then to not be able to cap it off. I mean, he was 6 for 6 coming in. That's including qualifying passes. Probably one of the most consistent cars to go down each and every pass. And on the last pass, when you have to have it, he goes up in smoke at the most inopportune time. What a great day for that team, though. But man, AP is killing it right now. For a kid to come out of a top fuel car and come into this funny car, which is one of the baddest ones on the planet and in the class, and handle it the way he has is absolutely, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. And he's got 3 of them babies right now.
He does. And, back-to-back wins. He has extended his points lead, took care of Matt Hagan in the semifinals. And obviously with John and his incident in the first round, was not able to come back from round 2, still remains second in points. But, rookie season already amassed, I believe we're up to 6 number 1 qualifiers in these events. And like you said, 3rd career win, which already puts him tied basically 46th on the all-time win list. Leroy Goldstein of the Ram Chargers, Jim Head, and Mike Ashley, all with 3 wins as well in the funny car category. And the sky's the limit. I think that it's almost like you want to ask, is it the car or the driver? Because could anybody get in that car right now and do what Austin's doing? But at the same time, he's cutting the lights and he's keeping it going down the groove. So I think that he's kind of found his calling in funny car.
Yeah, I think that's what your measuring stick is right there. Very consistent car. Absolutely got a great crew, got a great crew chief, and that's important. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at drivers and when you're looking at funny car, it's more than just pointing it straight and getting it down the racetrack. You see that thing wobbling and wobbling down the racetrack, down the groove. Keeping it in the groove is very important for these race cars. So, it definitely requires skill. And he's definitely showing that he is a skilled driver. And he came to play this weekend.
Yes, he did. And we'll bring up, so this is straight from NHRA.com. We don't have all the fancy graphics and anything, but here's the funny car eliminations highlight ladder. Austin Prock, the winner, Tasker, the runner-up. Low ET and top speed at a meet happened in the last 2 rounds. All throughout qualifying, all we saw, the only 320s that we saw, it came out of Bob Tasca. He upped it to 330 today. All through qualifying and top fuel, we never even saw a 320. Then finally, Tasca goes 330.07 in the semifinals. But, going through their day, Bob Tasca, first round, Dave Richards. Richards kept him honest. 418, got it down the track. He was there. He struggled a little bit in qualifying, made it in on the last session, and he was there if Bob had any problems. Round 2 against Daniel Wilkerson. Semifinal run when it was time to throw down into the threes, which he and Blake Alexander both did. Blake making it through and lead him to the finals there up against Austin Prock.
Yeah, it was a great day. Huge. Think if Dave Richards puts that run together in the last qualifying session, he's likely in the top half of the field. Right. But for a team that struggled all weekend long, looked like they couldn't really find their footing, and to come out and have to come out then and make this pass against a Bob Tasca, very admirable job for them. I really hope that here in the next couple of weeks they can start showing that in qualifying.
And looking at the bottom half of the field, or the other half of the field, either way you look at it, Chad Green, man, looked so strong, had that throttle hung on the burnout, got pretty scary for a moment. The car got sideways, and he said in his interview he did everything he could. His first concern was, how am I going to stop this thing and not crash it? Was able to, but man, how the day changed, and there was a lot of drag race bracket bonanza brackets that got busted when that throttle hung in first round for Chad Green.
Murdered. Absolutely murdered. That was tough. That was really tough on the field. Especially same thing with the Alexis one. I mean, I really thought that could be an upset waiting to happen. And if you picked her, that was another one. But yeah, Chad Green definitely going to the next round. I likely would have made it. I think had a really good opportunity to make it to the semis. But what a hell of a job of being able to keep that car under control and off the wall mainly. And I'm with Tony Pedregon. Need to kind of evaluate how we've got these ladies and gents out there backing these cars up. They need to be on the other side of the wall until that car comes to a stop and they begin to back that joker out. That could have been ugly if he wasn't paying attention and would have gotten ran over. So, yeah, need to reevaluate that as far as safety goes.
And that could have been very well why he jerked the car over towards the right, towards the wall as well, because he knew that he was standing out there to avoid him.
Yes.
Quick thinking when something like that happens, man, that separates the drivers from the passengers at that point. These things are unpredictably hard to control, and I think Chad did a great job saving that from being a much worse situation. J.R. Todd and Matt Hagan, man, that was number 3 and number 4 in the points, lining up first round. And it was a closer race than it probably should have been with that 439 to 433 with JR leaving first, but both of them struggling to get down there. Austin Prock, Cruz Pedregon, like you had mentioned, Alexis unfortunately couldn't even make the pass. And if Chad Green makes it past first round. Hagen struggled a little bit in round 2, only a 4.26. That could have been an invitation for Chad all the way to the semis, but instead it ends up Matt and Austin lays down at the time low ET 396 to set him to the finals, where he eventually takes care of Bob Tasca.
Yeah, I really think he could have made it to the semis. Matt was struggling this weekend to make consistent passes. Would have been really nice to see that, but yeah, I mean it was Austin Proc's day anyway. I thought it could have been Tasca, but it was not to be. And we go on to Norwalk and see if Tasca can redeem himself again.
For sure. And moving on to the other nitro category, Top Fuel. How did your favorites in your track race bracket bonanza play out there?
Terrible. Yeah, a lot of red, man. A lot of red. Like I said, it's a lot of red.
This really was a story of 2 races. You had the hot weather race, and then if you happen to make it to the semifinals when that rain front came through, I mean, it was 2 different racetracks, 2 different tune-ups, 2 different combinations. One thing stayed the same. Team Coletta.
Yeah.
I mean, man, if there is any way to just give a most improved team award, I mean, Team Coletta, and I mean, JR struggled. We didn't make it our first round of the funny car, but that Top Fuel, just their nitro team in general, Sean and Doug, Sean #1 qualifier, racing Doug into finals. Doug goes out there, low ET, 375, 333, puts another win on the board for Doug this year. 55th of his career, moves to solidify his place 4th all time, breaks the tie with Steve Torrance, who ended up with his 500th career round win in first round today. But I mean, man, this was a Team Coletta weekend in Top Fuel.
It really was. AJ is throwing kill shots right now. It's really nice to watch because I feel like he's starting to have that that Tony Schumacher type days with Doug here. And both those teams are very stout. Brian Hewson doing an excellent job there. I think they knew what they were going up against and was trying to meet them step for step and just overstepped a little bit. So those cars are going to be there all the rest of the regular season long. And it's going to be real fun come playoff time to see how that whole team plays out and if they're the ones who are dominating in the playoffs.
Well, and, since we're talking about that, how about another first-round loss for Justin Ashley? That's where Steve Torrance ended up picking up his 500th career round win, putting Justin on the trailer. Justin typically, as he always does, had 400s reaction time advantage on Steve. Just couldn't keep it hooked up all the way down track. And out round 1, falls to 3rd in points with Sean making it to the finals and the runner-up. Doug and Sean are 1-2 in the points, and they're kind of starting to set themselves out there from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, Ashley is struggling, but I'll tell you this, though, and it's the same thing I say about Bob Tasca. He's had some exceptional regular seasons, and in the postseason, they pooped their pants. So it's nice and it's okay to have some stumbles here. I think this is going to work out perfectly for both Bob and Justin. I think now we'll start to see them pick it up in the postseason. Having all that regular season success is great, but we've all seen it many times. They get in the postseason and they just stumble. They trip, fall, land on their face, and don't show out, end up going out in the first round in critical moments. So I think this is good for them. I think these struggles will pan out and actually help them in the postseason. They'll be able to flip this. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We'll take a look here at the Top Fuel ladder. The NHRA ladder, for some reason, does not show Lex June in the number 16th position against Sean Langdon first round. He was the number 16 qualifier, and he did have a respectable showing. Another one got down the track. I believe he ran a 4:15, and he was right there, ready in case Sean made a mistake, which he obviously did not. The aforementioned Steve Torrance, Justin Ashley matchup. Sean Reed and Tony Schumacher was kind of a toss-up for me on the drag racing bracket bonanza because Sean ran so good in qualifying, but Tony just seems to put it together on race day and go around. Yeah. So that was a surprise to me.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you this. Last night or Saturday night when I made the picks, I had Sean. When I woke up this morning, I like to tweak things, and I came in this morning and I was like, something just don't feel right. Don't pass the smell test. I know how Tony does in these hot weather conditions, and I figured Tony would outrun or out momentum Sean Reed, and that's exactly what happened. Did the same thing with Jasmine. I had Jasmine picked early, and I went and switched it over to Brittany. After you looking at qualifying and how things worked out, I just kind of felt that Brittany was going to have the shot there. So I made those switches. But yes, it definitely was a toss-up. But I just had a gut feeling it was going to be Schumacher's day in round one.
And like they always said, if Tony could make it past round one, he's usually good for the finals. But this time, Antron stopped him in the second round of eliminations, which moved Antron into that semifinal matchup with Sean Langdon. And they were the first two to test the green racetrack. And boy, what a show they put on. 381 to a 382, 300ths apart in reaction time. It showed that the NHRA Safety Safari did an epic job getting that racetrack re-prepared after that rainstorm. And they both went right through there, put on a hell of a show, and that moved Sean Langdon on to the finals. On the bottom side of the ladder, Doug Coletta got a solo in first round. Cam Ferret, I didn't hear what it was that broke, but they mentioned that they had problems on the run that they qualified, and because they're a new team, they didn't have enough time and enough parts.
Intake, I thought it was an intake that wasn't like with their combination. No other parts in the actual, no other parts with other teams would have fit. It's a different combination for their engine. Okay. So they had nothing to
they
go
were
with.
Unfortunately, not able to make the first round. Doug got a solo shot and took lane choice from another kind of surprise matchup. I honestly had Dan Mercier pulling off the upset, if you'd call it that, over Josh Hart being the number 10-7 qualifier. I did not have a lot of faith in Josh winning that round, but they went A to B, 398, 317, and turned on the win line.
I did too. And they needed that. I know they didn't get past Doug, but they needed that for their team. They needed some positive reinforcement there. They've been working hard and chomping at the bit. It just hasn't been translating onto the racetrack, and for them to get out of round one that was important for them.
And then I think for me, the most impressive run of the first round, Tony Stewart with a 387 low ET in the first round to put down Clay Milliken, set up a monster, if you will, match up with Brittany Force in round two, which I know it's HendrickCars.com this weekend. Brittany coming off that epic win Saturday, first real basic win of the year in a couple years for them to win that Mission Foods Challenge, comes up just short in a great drag race against Tony in round two. And that puts the two USAC veterans against each other in the semis. Doug Coletta, Tony Stewart, who battled for a championship in USAC 30 years ago. Now they're doing it on the drag strip. I was surprised to see Tony smoke the tires.
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself. The way that car had been running today, he definitely didn't let them down as far as cutting the light. He didn't let them down on that one. But the car let him down. I was very surprised by that. But you can see the progress that Tony is making. You can see the progress that the team is making. It's just a matter of them now being able to put up consistent runs back to back to back to back. But yeah, I was very, very shocked at how they went up and smoked like they did. I thought it was going to be a race to the finish.
And I was surprised also in the final round to see Sean Langdon puff the tire in the same spot on that right-hand lane. Doug Coletta, I mean, they were 500ths apart or 5,000ths apart in reaction times. And that AJ tune-up goes down. Header flames, 375, 333, and another Wally for one of the legends of the sport, Doug Coletta, to extend his top fuel points lead too.
Yeah, pretty impressive. it's nice to see Doug on the other side of it. And I thought after having this championship that he won last year that this was going to open up the floodgates, and they're starting to produce, man. They really are starting to produce and putting them down. So we'll see if this momentum and all of this winning and positive things that they're having going on in the regular season can translate to the postseason, because that's where it matters.
100%. And some light breaking news, because the event is still going on as we're doing this. I have noticed that Ricky Smith ended up taking the Wally in Pro Mod over Chris Thorne in an epic final round. He cuts a double or a 018 light to Chris's 078 and goes low ET to meet 570, 253 to Chris's 571, 252. Ricky Smith picks up career win number 20. If you count all the way back to Gainesville, 2001, the very first exhibition Pro Mod race that NHRA had was won by Ricky Smith. And now today, he is still your winner 23 years later at Dinwiddie, Virginia, Richmond, at the PlayNHRA Virginia Nationals. Congratulations to Ricky Smith, who is about his third year of retirement, if I'm not mistaken. First win since Trainer 2022. And I do not have the Pro Mod points in front of me. I don't think that is enough. I know this race was 1.5 points. I don't know if that snuck him into the top 10 at the very bottom to get into this countdown for the championship. Sorry about that, folks. This all happened so late in the afternoon. This show in general was just thrown together in 5 minutes. I'm like, let's talk about this. And thanks to Dugenet for coming on and doing it with me. But last race for the Pro Mod series was today. It was 1.5 points. And we're not going to see them. Usually they're a staple at Norwalk. They will not be at Norwalk. We won't see them again to the U.S. Nationals this year.
Yeah, it kind of stinks because they've had quite the season. They have been exceptional to watch. Ricky is Tricky. Ricky's starting to get like Brett Favre, just retiring and coming back, I'm going to retire, and then he still comes back. So, and he's still kicking butt and taking names. So, I mean, I don't know if I would be talking about retirement if I'm still winning at this rate. So, I mean, just keep going until the luck runs out.
And shifting gears, quite literally, to the 5-speed Pro Stock 500-inch category, we had some breaking news from Team Elite that I know you went ahead and created a post for and put out there. What was the news from Team Elite this Saturday?
Sienna Wildgus going and being part of that team in Pro Stock. I think it's a great move. A great move for her. It's nothing like learning from a 6-time champ and being woman to woman. I think that makes all the difference in the world. Having someone that can relate. She's been through a lot in her career. I think times are different, and maybe there are some things that do still apply out there on the racetrack, but I think it's going to be great for her to be able to learn from Erica, and she can kind of guide her and kind of speed up her maturation process, because there's no doubt that she's got the skill. I think we've seen that on the racetrack. They'll have a little bit more help as well. Elite, great job with power plants and being able to have consistent race cars out there. So I think this is all around a good move. But yeah, Sienna Wildgust is all elite.
Now, on the same vein, kind of a question that I go back to preseason testing when she was getting her license. It seemed like her and Camry Crusoe were kind of buddy, and Camry was kind of working with her.
Yeah.
Now that Camry got injured and she's not out there or not able to be out there competing, do you think that influenced the decision one way or the other to move things around? Or do you think it's just I don't want to say general lack of success, knowing that they have what they have with KB Power, but and also a kind of a spin-off question, but it is related since we're mentioning that. When you look at the point standings, Dallas Glenn and Greg Anderson are just they're 1-2 in the points. Erica's kind of like straggling there in third, but it's Dallas, Greg, and then a whole lineup of elite cars. So did KB, after what happened last year, put all their eggs in Greg's and Dallas's basket this year? Because the other KB cars aren't doing so good. So kind of a question.
Yeah. To answer the first part of the question, I don't think it's anything against Camry at all. But I think when you look at elite, and you look at what's transpiring over there, and when you look at the ladder, there's a lot of elite cars over there, and the guys and gals that, especially you look at Jerry Tucker, you look at all these different drivers that they come out and they produce. And so that's undeniable. And then when you look at what's going on over on KB Titan, well, it's a top heavy deal, and everybody else is stumbling and fumbling and bumbling. So I don't blame them for it. And like I said, if the opportunity is there, and if I'm going to be able to go and be teammates with Kobe, well, I'm going to go be teammates with Kobe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care about Dwayne Wade when I can be teammates with Kobe. So, when you're being able to have the opportunity to be teammates with the winningest woman driver in history, why not? And what they're doing over there, it's tried and proven. All you got to do is look at the points ladder. The old saying, women lie, men lie, numbers don't.
That is right. And speaking of being all elite and elite, asserting their dominance, if you will, strength in numbers. I mean, this weekend, Erica was number 1, 658. Looked like it was going to be another elite field. But then you go into the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. Greg Anderson picks up the win, his first. Ends up being a Hendricks car double up with Brittany Force. The two Hendrick Cars.com cars end up sharing the win there. But surprisingly, Greg only qualified 8th in the field with how tough that this field was. And really, Q1 was your session. If you didn't get down in Q1, that would pretty much set the field. And everybody knew that going in. That was kind of like your Friday night session. It was only going to get hotter from there. But it very interestingly set up the ladder to be just so that we got to see Greg and Erica a little bit earlier than we thought we would at this particular race. They ended up in round 2 against each other. And that really had to make a lot of people scratch their heads when it came time to filling out your drag racing bracket bonanza bracket, because most people, Erica and Greg is a final round, maybe a semi. But if you've got 2 of the best in the class right now, head to head in round 2, somebody's bracket's getting busted early. Yeah.
And I picked Greg. I just had that feeling. He's kind of had her number on occasion. And it was basically on horsepower, because I mean, it's not like she didn't cut a good light. She definitely cut a tremendous light. It just wasn't enough on the top end. But yeah, I think it's going to be like this all season long. You're going to see KB Titan throw a haymaker and land one on the jaw, stagger them a little bit, and we'll come back to another race, and it'll be Erica throwing another haymaker on the chin and staggering KB Titan here. So I think this is going to be a battle all season long, and Greg Anderson got the best of it this time.
Well, and you know what? It didn't take but 45 minutes for him to come back. Well, no, I take that back, because the semis happened after the rain delay. It took him 2 hours and 45 minutes to come back and respond to the Greg and Erica matchup, as Aaron Stanfield for the number 5 qualifying position. Matt Hartford was number 4, kind of a resurging weekend for him there. But then he gets put on the trailer first round by Troy Coughlin. That sets up the elite matchup of Troy and Aaron in round 2, which Aaron advances. And then Aaron and Greg go to head-to-head. How about a 003 light for Aaron Stanfield?
Yeah.
Identical ETs, and puts Greg on the trailer in the semis. So that pretty much ended any chance of Greg going on ahead and adding more points to his total.
Yeah, I mean, what you going to do with that? I mean, all he had to do, only thing Greg could do was tip the cap.
Exactly.
That's it. I mean, it was all decided on the starting line, and the hell of a light by Aaron. Hell of a light, But, hey, that's drag racing. But that was a great race. Great race, and he just got this time.
He did. And on the bottom half of the ladder, Eric Latino, career best qualifying effort, number 2. laid down an amazing run in Q1 on Saturday morning to put him there. The return of Bo Butner, who really, I mean, I didn't know what to make of him in the drag race bracket bonanza, and I got burned by that because I did not anticipate a Bo Butner semifinal finish today. I am very guilty of that. Another resurgent qualifying effort by Derek Kramer to come up third. The McGahays in 14th and 11th. And then you got 00 Dallas. They're in 6th. Points leader. You know, him and Greg going back and forth. Erica's only a couple rounds back. The most consistent car, putting down the most round wins all year. And there he is doing his work from 6th qualifying position. Takes out Mason first round. Gets by Derek Kramer in the second round. Gets up against Bo Butner in the semis. And Bo left first, and I kind of thought, well, this might go his way. But Dallas ends up coming up with it and going to another final. Thought it might be another all KB final until, you know, Aaron puts Greg on the trailer. And then Aaron goes 007 against 00 Dallas. Goes 3 thousandths quicker to the finish line. And puts Dallas on the trailer in another beautiful final round, side-by-side, KB elite matchup.
Yeah, and Dallas wasn't far off either. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. Both cars were evenly matched. They almost identical ETs. When you get all the way out there to that third number is where it changed, but basically the same ET. What a pro stock race overall. Great pro stock final. I thought all the finals were that way, but huge win for Aaron. He hadn't had the opportunity to get one of those in a while, and that was huge. Dallas is quietly, just kind of going along at the top, quiet, not making, it's not like one of these big, number one where you're doing a whole lot and you're just unloading on the competition. He's quietly up there, but this pro stock field as a whole is tight. I had Eric Latino going. I think I had Eric Latino in the final. I just had a feeling that was going to be the case. Didn't see Bo coming up there like that and doing what he did.
No, and with Greg and Jeg racing first round, the monster matchup between those two drivers again. See them together. It seemingly, the majority of their careers, as it has been. Greg putting Jeg on the trailer and Aaron going ahead and win the race. They're only a point apart from each other now in 4th and 5th. So their seasons have kind of mirrored each other. They've both got a win. They've both got, gone rounds. They've done well. But 9th win of his career for Aaron Stanfield ties him with the legend Ronnie Sachs and the late Scott Jeffrion with 9 career pro stock wins. So congratulations to Aaron. And I think that the biggest victory for him, if you saw the NHRA on Fox TV show, I don't know if they showed it on NHRA TV, but having his family and his daughter there at the end to share in the trophy was pretty much icing on the cake for that.
Indeed. Yeah, they did show that. That was really cool to see him up there and have his family up there. That was pretty huge. But yeah, good win for him.
And the last win, which was maybe expected, was maybe not expected, but is probably the biggest win in NHRA history, simply because nobody has ever done what Gage Herrera has done at this particular national event. He picks up his 10th straight national event victory. Nobody in any professional category has won that many national events in a row. He ended up, it was a 14 bike field. We were worried that he might extend his win streak, his round win streak on a bye, but thankfully it was 14. So we do a 14 bike ladder. The bye goes to round 2, and Chris Bostic made him earn it. I mean, he was 007. He went 687 next to him in the first round. He kept Gage honest, but Gage, worked his way through the field, picked up, another win, the 16th of his career, which ties him 10th already on the all-time motorcycle win list with Antron Brown. Already 10th. We're top 10 and the all-time win list in the category in the middle of his second full season. I mean, the man hasn't even competed in the sport for 2 years. He's only been out there for 26 national events, and he's won 16 of them. He's been in 17 finals. I mean, I can't imagine in my mind as I try and scan through everybody, any other professional category driver who has ever started their career the way that this rider has.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It's a phenomenal feat, to be honest with you. It says a lot about it. I said it when he first came out. What the bikes he has ridden, this is how it translates to over his riding style. He's like a machine. It's like going up to the free throw line and doing your same routine over and over again and continuing to knock down shots from the free throw line. He has a routine. It's second nature to him, and he does a really good job of it. And I think you saw Richard, he's starting to get himself in that same rhythm as well. And they're finding the little bit of horsepower and the little things they're trying to work out with that bike to match Gage. Did a good job there in the final. They were very close in the final, and I think you're going to see more and more of that as the season goes on. Gage just a little bit better in riding when, I say when it matters, but it don't matter whatever round it is. He's just a machine.
No, and it was funny because as Saturday progressed, we talked about it on your show, or I commented on it on your show. We talked about it a little bit on Power Hour earlier in the week when we happened to be on there. If you love the match races between Gage NHRA and Matt Hines, tune in on Saturday because you're guaranteed to see them run twice against each other. And Gage really started with that upper hand in Q1, track record 670 out of nowhere. I mean, it was the quote-unquote coolest session of the weekend, but still dang hot. Still dang hot for a naturally aspirated pro stock motorcycle. And to go out there and go with 70. But then he kind of comes back and Q2 loses to Matt Smith in the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge. And then he red lit in Q3, turned on the red bulb, and he was pushing the tree a little bit. And I'm kind of like, you had one good run, two questionable runs. How does that lead you into race day? It was kind of a question mark on, Matt Smith carried the momentum and maybe not so much Gage going into race day. But very, very, very surprisingly, as we saw in the first round of eliminations, Matt and Angie light up against each other, number 3 qualifier against number 12 qualifier. And as my buddy Helium Tank Games mentioned, Matt Smith got hole shotted right out of the park in the first round with a 678 to a 680. Angie with an 016 light to Matt's 063. And everybody's pro stock motorcycle drag race bracket got busted right then and there.
Look, I tweeted this out on Saturday night after he beat Gage in Too Fast, Too Tasty. Too much smiling and excitement. We done seen this on qualifying several times where he's out qualifying him or whatever the case may be, right? I said he needs to produce that on Sunday. Every time we get to Sunday, it ain't the same Matt Smith we've seen in qualifying. And the hell with all the rest of the stuff that you do coming in, I don't even care no more. It's time for Matt Smith to start producing on race day. That's where it's counting. Because you know what? Gage was stumbling, fumbling, and bumbling coming into, race day and eliminations, and they got it right and righted the ship. Hey, I'm happy for Angie, but I'm gonna tell you, I was smiling, but I was crying inside. That hurt.
Yes, I agree. And it's funny because he went number 1 in Chicago, and everybody's like, "All right, Matt's got his bike back. Look out, Gage!" And then he just fell to pieces in eliminations. Gage picked up another win. Comes back, goes number 1 again at Bristol. All right, look out, Gage, man. Matt's got his bike back. What happens? He gets hole shot out of the place. Gage picks up another win. Now we come here. You know what? Gage had number 1, but Matt took him out. Matt's sending a message on Saturday, and then he gets hole shotted out of the joint first round by his wife, who has got equal power to what he does. If that bike goes down the track, that can run just the same as Matt's bike does, and she's killer on the tree. But I will say this, props to the Smith team for running heads up, because, you know, a lot of people would look at that and go,
Facts.
it's real easy to just turn a couple of knobs here and there. They're not going to run each other heads up. Matt's an easy, you know, that's an easy round pick. Why would I even think about putting Angie in the next round in the brackets? But they go out there and they race, and that's very commendable.
Yeah, it really was. But I'm going to need her to chill. I need you to take a chill pill and slow things down. She got an exceptional bike, and I believe that this is one of the best bikes she's had in her career. You know, I just need you to chill out on the starting line and keep the red bulb like unlit, please. Because I mean, the bike is there. We all know she can ride. I just need you to chill out a little bit. Just, you know, slow down.
Well, and as we had mentioned on the top half of the ladder, Gage had that run with Chris. The 14 bike field gave him the odd lot bye to the semi. So once that round win streak advanced, we knew he was going from there. Ends up against John Hall in the semifinals. So on the other side, the second half of that ladder, Chase Van Zandt was not a surprise. John Hall was not a surprise advancing. However, to me, the John Hall-Kelly Klontz race was a lot closer than I thought it would have been elapsed time-wise. Kelly just missed the tree, but that race could have been better than I thought it was going to be, so that was a surprise. And then Chase Van Zandt turning on the red light was a surprise too, because for me, in my brackets, I had penciled him in the semis against Gage, but that was a shocker to see him go red.
Yeah, it was. He's got plenty of horsepower, and he's starting to assert himself. You know, he kind of threw it away there. John Hall, if Kelly cuts a better light, it's definitely a lot closer. That bike's coming around, and she's coming around. So I think we're going to see that bike start to go some rounds too. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of John Hall and Chase Van Zandt. Gianna Evaristo, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of her as well. This bike class continues to get tighter. It's just now who's going to start to catch up and start to challenge that Vance and Hines team in the semifinal and final rounds. That's the question.
Well, you know, and I'm going to say we're looking at the bottom half of the ladder here. Shout out to Iji Kawakami, who, you know, an 011 light in the first round. You know, he didn't have the bike to do it. Right. I am guilty of not realizing this, but as I go back and compile all of my statistics and round-by-round results that will be available for everybody on dragracereference.com, Iji had been racing in pro stock motorcycle fields as far back as 1994. I didn't know he'd been out there that long. I mean, he's not consistently out there, but this is not a new name to the category. You know, a respectable showing on the starting line, but Richard Gadsden obviously definitely outpowered him. The Gianna Evaristo Steve Johnson matchup was one that I got backwards in my bracket bonanza. I thought that, you know, even though they were the most closely matched in qualifying, I thought Steve Johnson would have advanced on that round. That one definitely reversed to me. The Smiths was definitely reversed. Hector Arana Jr. advancing. And then the double red light, like you mentioned, Angie just needs to chill on the starting line a little bit, because her and Hector Jr. both went red. Hers was just worse. And Gianna Evaristo had the better bike against Richard Gadsden in round 2 and lost on a hole shot. So that just goes to show, no, her runner-up at Bristol was not a fluke. The bike is coming around. Her riding is coming around. And if she has the same light that she did in the first round, we got a whole different conversation. She's going to back-to-back finals, because Hector Jr. ends up turning on the red bulb in the semis again and lets Richard pass on to race against his teammate. But that could have very easily been back-to-back Gage and Gianna runs.
Yeah, that bike's coming around. She's getting real comfortable on the bike, and you can see it starting to show with those times in the reaction times as well. If she was just a little better, you know, she's probably got her way right into the final. And I'm just starting to think if you're picking Hector in any big time matchup against another tough bike, you just might as well just pick the other one because every time he gets in this type of position, he goes red. I mean, tape don't lie. Tape don't lie. Every time he gets in this position, he turns the red light on. And once again, he turned the red light on. So yeah, if you pick him, just when he gets against a competitive bike, you might as well pick the other person.
And then that set up our all-team final with the Vance and Hines boys. They interviewed, I believe it was Eddie, just before the final round. They're like, well, what'd you do? What'd you change? We got total different weather conditions. He's like, everything on the bike. And you know what? They raced for it. They were dead even off the line. 022 lights for both. And they were just about even going down the track. Gage kind of made me nervous because that thing was listing left. It was either not pointed straight or what was going on. That's probably the most out of shape, if you'd call it, run that I've ever seen him make on a motorcycle to date. It was headed towards the center line, but he held on 675 to a 678. The 300s in elapsed time was the only difference between the two. A great heads-up race. And when that win light came on, history was made.
Yeah, that was it made me a little nervous too. He was pointing, and it wasn't going in the right direction. But man, what an early career this kid is having. And like Matt said, he gets up tomorrow and goes to his regular job like everybody else. So
I mean, it's hard to, it's hard not to pull for somebody like that or be happy for him. It's hard not to just go, like a Jimmy Johnson type success, I guess, on the NASCAR side of things. Or, you see these guys that come out here and dominate and you're just kind of like, boo, or, Greg Anderson in the early 2000s when he's winning everything and people are just tired of seeing him win. I'm sure, don't get me wrong, there are fans of other riders and teams in the pro stock motorcycle class that are tired of Gage winning and the Vance and Hines team winning. But I mean, the kid is just so respectful and he does such, down to earth interviews. He's just an all around good guy. How do you root against them?
I agree. It's tough to root against somebody like him. They work hard. He works hard, and it's just showing up on the racetrack. I think just again, I say the same thing when I talk about Erica. I just think it's history being made here. These are generational talents and need to appreciate what they're doing on the racetrack and give them flowers while they're here in the sport. Just sit back and appreciate it. This doesn't happen a lot. This is once in a lifetime type stuff. And man, I can only dream how far this is going to go and what records he will obliterate. So it's interesting. It's going to be fun to watch. Really, it's going to be fun.
Well, I agree. And I mean, everybody has their personal favorites or people that they cheer for or root for. And I'm sure somewhere down the road, so do I. But for the most part, like you said, I'm a fan of a good story. That's what I cheer for. I cheer for history. That's why I dive so deep into these numbers to give what is happening some kind of a meaning and a substance behind it. And, 45 years is the last time that somebody won 9 national events in a row. 45 years. And now for the first time ever, somebody has done 10. And I don't know that, now the question is going to be, like you said, how long can it last? But at this point, you just need to appreciate the history as it's happening. Tune in, enjoy it, mark it down, and go, man, I lived through, for newer fans of the sport, maybe they didn't live through the Greg Anderson era of the 2000s. Maybe they didn't live through the Tony Schumacher era. Maybe they didn't live through John Force just owning the funny car field for a decade in a row. This is your turn to shine. Follow this kid. Watch his path to stardom. See how high up the ladder he can go. And don't forget, he's only in his second full season of competition. So the sky could be the limit here. So I 100% agree with you, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. The history that's going to be made here is it's going to be something.
And that being said, I mean, that pretty much puts a wrap on Virginia. We are heading to Norwalk in 1 week time, and all the pro classes are following suit coming on down there. So I'll put you on the I'll pose a question to you. Looks like Norwalk might have a mid 80s day on Friday, a chance for some afternoon thunderstorms on Saturday, and a high 80s day on Sunday for race day. So a little bit more favorable conditions, but you know how Norwalk can be. That can always be a crapshoot of, you get there and that's another hot weather, get down the track, work to get down the track. Blake Alexander was perfect example of that, picking up the win last year. Going into that event, any early favorites? Do you think, these back-to-back races like we're having, is there anybody that carries momentum from Richmond into Norwalk?
I think you can't deny Proc and Tasca. I don't think you can deny those two. I think Tony Stewart, they have found something. I think the hot weather helped them out a little bit. I'm interested to see what Antron Brown does. He had a really good weekend despite, not being able to be in the final. And of course, the Coletta cars, I think they continue their momentum. Pick them in pro stock. I mean, pick an elite car. I like to see Jerry Tucker and Eric Latino see if they can carry their momentum over. And everybody in pro stock bike, Gianna Evaristo, for sure. I want to see if that more. I think she has some momentum coming in and can make some noise.
For me, I think if you look back at the top fuel results last year at Norwalk, one driver who is not out there, but their car still is, Leah Pruitt. I feel like Tony Stewart very, very well go back-to-back. That team may go back-to-back. Tony Stewart Racing may go back-to-back, and Tony might pick up his first win there at Norwalk. I think that they showed us a lot. They kind of turned the corner a little bit. They stubbed their toe when the track conditions changed after the rain. Right. But I think that they might be one to watch next week at Norwalk. I agree. It's hard to bet against Austin Proc because, like you always say, I'm going to keep picking you until you give me a reason not to. Pro stock is going to be KB versus Elite. It's just a matter of which car you're plugging in. And NHRA, for me, I think we're going to a record 11 wins in a row, a record, and if not 11 wins in a row, at least a record 11 consecutive final rounds in a row, which will be a class record. And I mean, now the big question is going to be who is going to stop the streak. So that's going to make somebody a lot of money in the PlayNHRA world if you like to put a little skin in the game, or make somebody a very happy winner of some pretty cool prizes in your drag race bracket bonanza if you just like playing along for free. So Norwalk will be another must-see event, and I'm glad that it's only a week away.
Yeah, me too. The fields are pretty full as well, so there's actually going to be some bump spot action in the fuel classes. And I'm not talking about like one car. There's a considerable amount of fuel cars showing up to this event. Pro stock, obviously, just a little under 20. I don't know about pro stock bike, but definitely full fields in those. So it should make for some very interesting and very fun action in qualifying. I saw that Travis Shoemake is going to be making his appearance here in Top Fuel. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that car can do. They've had Trip Tatum also is coming back out too. So
really, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing. You got TJ Zizzo going to be there as well. A lot of competitive cars.
TJ's one that could come out of the box and put it in the show.
So tell me why we got a Spencer Massey sighting, and guess what the car is? It says 19 Coletta AJ 500 McLeod red line oil. That's interesting. Just saying.
That is interesting.
That car is, that make is a 19 Coletta car, engine AJ 500.
I see that now that you mention it, looking at the entry list. Yeah, that Top Fuel is going to be interesting next week. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of competitive cars out there, and don't sleep on Travis Shoemaker. That car's got the ability. I understand. Again, I think lower level and low teams make a mistake when you sit out a session where you have the ability to put yourself in. And I hope they don't do that this time.
Also on the funny car side of thing, we will mention somebody that you had a guest on your Not Bland show, Joe Morrison, in the Right to Breathe funny car. He's going to be out there. It'd be interesting to see if they come out, but I do see Dale Creasy Jr. on the entry list. Hopefully they've got their new car back together. Chris King coming down from Chicago to run the field. So I believe we had about 20 funny cars entered in the field. So that's going to be, like you said, qualifying is going to be very interesting in the nitro categories next weekend in Norwalk too, especially if the weather comes to fruition on Saturday and there is a chance of rain. Is Norwalk, I don't recall, I'm trying to see, is that a 4 qualifying show or a 3 qualifying show?
Let's see.
It looks like 4. So we got 2 Friday and 2 Saturday. So it might just be 2 Friday and 1 Saturday, depending on if the weather forecast holds true. So it could make for some very interesting ladders. But like we've been seeing throughout, the qualifying ladders just make for interesting matchups, but the races seem to play out the way that they play out anyway. So definitely want to tune in for Norwalk.
For sure. Going to be a fun one.
And leading up to Norwalk, tune into the Not Bland show Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Your guest this week,
Ida Zetterstrom. We're gonna put some respect on her name. All these people acting like she ain't done nothing, and her career resume is stout. So she belongs here. We're gonna talk to her about that and her debut and what they've been doing leading up. Getting ready for that. So I'm excited to talk to her about that.
Very cool. Very cool. Make sure you all tune into that. Dujane, thank you very much for joining me, just kind of like on a complete whim to discuss and break down the PlayNHRA Richmond, Virginia Nationals. As we close out, it doesn't look like I was still checking just to see if there's been any press release or any updates. Still nothing on John Force. At this being this late in the night, I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to come out on Monday or Tuesday when they're ready to say something. They're going to say something. So all we can do is respect their privacy and keep them in our thoughts and hope that everything is well on that end. And thank you all for tuning in. And again, Dujane, thank you for being on the show.
No problem, man. It was fun. Looking forward to a Norwalk.
It was fun dusting off the cobwebs, and it was such a cool event that I wanted to talk about it, and I'm glad y'all tuned in, and thank y'all for in the comments. We've seen you, and hopefully it was entertaining. I know we don't have the same graphics and video packages like we always did when we used to do the show, but it was quickly thrown together, and enjoy y'all being here, and we'll see you another time.